part of the reason why Starmer and Trump have got on so well so far is because Trump respects him as a winner, because of the size of Labour's majority at the election. And Trump, he's a sucker for someone who's politically successful. And as now we have, Starmer suffering politically, reform ahead in the polls consistently, at what point does it change? The issue is that it's been overshadowed, of course, by the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which has dominated politics in America and continues to do so. And one feels is rather going to, overshadow almost a bit of this trip, because bear in mind, Trump is going to Kirk's memorial service at the end of the week. So he's coming to the UK for a couple of days. He's getting his royal treatment. I think for most Americans, they kind of regard the kind of royal family as the curiosity and the kind of that's what Trump really wants out of this trip. The pedigree of being seen at Windsor Castle and all the pomp and ceremony. But there is this kind of Kirk date at the end of the week, which is kind of where all the politics at the moment is kind of gearing towards.
So with that in mind, George, I want to bring Kitty and Joe in a second, but with that in mind, is there any expectation that Donald Trump will be arriving here with his take on freedom of speech very much on his mind, because it's so much a part of the conversation in America now, and that intruding into this visit to the United Kingdom? Yep. Because if that then strays into the area, J.D. Vance territory of reading Britain a lecture on freedom of speech and its failure to support freedom of speech, it gets very awkward, George, doesn't it?
Yeah, it would do. But I have to say that Trump himself is always careful to kind of pay deference to his hosts. And, he came to Scotland only a few weeks ago, and he doesn't want to embarrass Starmer publicly. Actually, he manages to get on with him quite well, it has to be said. It usually tends to be the outriders of the administration, like you say, J.D. Vance, and he's actually not coming on the trip. So that makes it a bit easier for British officials, but obviously they've been hampered a little bit by the fact that Lord Mandelson has had to resign, who was kind of obviously overseeing most of the details of the visit.
Yes.
Just as it was about to happen.
Yes.
I was thinking about this today because they're doing a press conference at Chequers on Thursday, to which I'm going, and whereas in Scotland, as George mentioned, Trump was hosting it because it was at his clubhouse at his golf course. And it went on for hours, didn't it? Do you remember? Everyone was like, oh my goodness, more. But this time, the Brits are hosting it. So I imagine the questions, if we go, two each side, two for the Americans, two for the Brits, that will be the most they want to do. But I can't imagine anyone not asking about it. So Trump will be invited to talk about free speech and talk about Lord Mandelson. Yes. We saw reports that Trump was upset with Keir Starmer for not letting him know personally that he was sacking Lord Mandelson. So I don't, and also in the week that Elon Musk addressed the rally of Tommy Robinson's supporters in London, I just don't see how it doesn't come up, to be honest. Yeah,
and it doesn't take much, George, does it, to provoke Donald Trump into a reaction? The bigger the reaction, then the bigger the splash, and he wants as little a splash as possible. So there's a bit of a dilemma there, and he won't want to upset the king. Although by Thursday at Chequers, that bit of the trip will be over.
Yeah. So it's definitely very much two segments. One is the sort of pomp, the Windsor Castle, gold brocade and cucumber sandwiches, and then they get into the kind of actual talks about pharmaceuticals trade, steel, nuclear, all the stuff that, and Ukraine, and Starmer has kind of got a shopping list that he wants to talk to Trump about. So it might be, but then if they stand up at the end and they've got the Brits have got a good deal, that might be sort of slightly overshadowed if Trump also says something about free speech in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, our own Kate McCann was saying earlier on, she was picking up the Downing Street plan, and you can see where this is coming from. They want as few questions as possible. Yeah. If it's like two on either side, two from the White House, two from the Westminster lobby, then a lot of you guys are going to be heading down to Chequers for no particular benefit.
And isn't the challenge, though, that there's a 3-hour, there's this urgent debate, which means there's 3 hours being dedicated to talk about Lord Mandelson, which means Wednesday's papers will be further write-up and possible other things that maybe come out from how that carries on tomorrow. And so then, isn't the point with Trump that often he's trying to sort of throw everyone off the scent of the thing that they want to concentrate on by throwing something else in? So is it is it even potentially possible that to sort of not talk about the Epstein files and the whole connection with Mandelson, which he doesn't want to get to? We know that there's been this effort to sort of not go there in America. Is there then almost the temptation to throw some other sort of grenade or big distraction into the trip that he's got with the UK?
That's a really good point.
George?
It's possible, but you can't underplay how fondly he thinks about the UK, because his mum is Scottish. His mum was a big royalist, and for him, it's personal as much as anything. So you've seen. So it was only a couple of weeks ago. Nigel Farage came over here, and he was appearing on the Hill. Then he went and met Trump, and he was talking about the case of Lucy Connolly and Graham Linehan. And Farage was kind of, he described Britain as a North Korea. He was kind of painting this dystopian picture of what it was like because of free speech. And yet Trump, he's never really taken up on that line of argument so far. And he can say anything at any time. But I think it's more likely, if he's going to complain about something, it's probably going to be about the view of windmills from his golf course, which is a kind of perennial problem.
But George, also, like, we're all talking. We've been talking even today about, the potential of what Keir Starmer's going to do, how long Keir Starmer's got. It's not as if the US president is immune to the fact that there is massive disquiet. And at some point, when does he decide to sort of distance himself or pick a fight, or perhaps not play as well or as friendly? Because it's fine when the leader's doing a good job and you feel like you want to be in their reflective glory or whatever, but when you start to worry if that one is a sort of wounded animal, maybe on their way out, is there some value for Trump in sort of some form of distance, no matter how nicely he might have intended to play previously?
Well, part of the reason why Starmer and Trump have got on so well so far is because Trump respects him as a winner, because of the size of Labour's majority at the election. And Trump, he's a sucker for someone who's politically successful. And as now we have, Starmer suffering politically, Reform ahead in the polls consistently, at what point does it change? To be honest, I'm not sure that American politicians follow it so closely. Trump in particular, maybe J.D. Vance or others, certainly they kind of engaged in the kind of minutiae of the debate. But I think for Trump, it's probably just the headline moments of elections, and he saw Starmer with this thumping majority. At what point as Starmer's kind of popularity wanes, does that affect their relationship? I mean, it's you could see there being a tipping point at some stage.